everyone. My name is Christina. I'm the Family Programs Coordinator at the Vancouver Art Gallery. And this is Erica, one of our fabulous educators. Hey, Erica, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing all right, thanks. How's everybody else doing? We are so glad that you're joining us today. Welcome to Art at Home Live. Erica and I have the very cool jobs of looking at artworks with families and talking about them together. Of course, the best way to talk about art is when we're in front of artworks. We can see the paint up close, or we can walk all the way around the sculptures. But since we can't be together in the gallery right now, we can still be together on screens on Zoom. Has anyone here used Zoom before? This is only my third time using Zoom in this way, so I am still learning. Thank you for being patient with me. Let's take a minute to look at how Zoom works. You can see in this picture here that I've circled a little button that should be on the bottom of your screen. It's the chat button. And if you click on this, you or someone that you're with can enter in answers to questions that we ask, or you can enter your own questions that you have, or maybe you just want to say hi to all of the other aspiring artists joining us from all across Canada today. We already have people saying hello and hi, so go ahead and you can practice doing that right now. Hi, Alyssa, Sarah, Ethan, Landon, Saffron. Oh my goodness, so many. Anna, Susan. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being with us together. So today, we're going to enter the world of a very unique, bold, and adventurous artist named Emily Carr. Have you heard of her before? So what we're going to do, we're going to sketch shapes in her work. We're going to talk about the colors that she chooses to use in her paintings. And then I'm going to be brave and show you how I created a painting inspired by what we have learned. So you can start to paint at the end of our session using some of the ideas about shape and color that we'll learn about from Emily Carr. But this isn't a step-by-step kind of how to paint lesson. This is more like a starting point that you can then jump off of with your own imagination to create your own work. This session is really about getting your ideas and inspirations flowing. So many people are saying hi and thanks for hosting this and are excited to learn more about Emily Carr. That's really cool. So Emily Carr was an artist who did things her own way. She spent her life creating painting so she could share how she came to know and love nature. She traveled all over British Columbia chasing that feeling of awe or wow that happens when you see or feel something you never have before. Have you ever felt like that, Erica, or anyone else? That, whoa, this is amazing. My son does it every time he sees a bird. Marcus is saying he has before, Landon and Ethan. Ethan said, no, not yet. Maybe you'll feel that today, Ethan. We are gonna think about how Emily Carr helps us to notice the world around us in different ways. So, who is ready to enter the bold and curious world of Emily Carr? Okay, everyone's saying me, we're excited. Okay.
Too.
Emily Carr was born in Victoria, BC in 1871, a long time ago. She knew she wanted to be an artist since she was about 5 years old. Emily Carr chose a very different lifestyle than many women that were living 130 years ago. Many women then became mothers and wives, which is cool. I'm a mother and a wife, but that wasn't the life that Carr wanted. She traveled to England, France, and San Francisco to go to art school, all before women could even vote for prime minister in Canada. During her time in France, about 108 years ago, Emily Carr was introduced to outdoor sketching, along with new ways of making art that she had never seen before. After her return to Canada, she traveled north, often with her caravan that you can see in this picture here, called the Elephant. She visited Indigenous communities on the Skeena River in Haida Gwaii, and she produced her first paintings of Indigenous cultures. Does anyone know what Indigenous means?
I think we learned last time.
We did, Indigenous. Some people are saying yes. Okay, you maybe have heard it before. I see words like original. Indigenous people are the first people to live in what we now call Canada. Some people are saying, Gina's saying First Nations people. It's another word to say Indigenous. Did you know that the Vancouver Art Gallery was built on Indigenous land? It's on the land of, you can say it with me if you know, the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. So Emily Carr was not Indigenous. Her parents were from England. Carr tried to sell her paintings of Indigenous cultures to the government of Canada because at the time, many Canadians thought that these cultures would fade away. But as we know, they were very wrong. Indigenous people are celebrating and practicing ways of life that have been passed down through generations for thousands of years. The government of Canada didn't want to buy Carr's paintings because they said they didn't look realistic enough. They looked too much like they were from Emily Carr's own imagination. And it looks like, I'm looking at the chat, a lot of people have heard of Indigenous people before and might maybe know a little bit about it. Indigenous is of the land, someone is saying here. So let's take a look at another photo of Emily Carr. So after the government didn't want to buy her paintings, Emily Carr felt like giving up on painting. So when she returned from her travels to her home in Victoria, she made a living by running a boarding house, raising sheepdogs, and making pottery and giving art lessons even. She loved animals, sometimes even more than she loved people. She loved cats and dogs, and even had a pet that might be surprising. Can anyone guess what kind of animal her pet Woo was? You might see it in this picture. Oh, Olivia already got it. And Zainab already got it. And Marcus already. It's a monkey. That's right. Woo was a pet monkey. So as you can imagine at this time, Emily Carr was very busy and she produced very little painting. One day, oh, and people are also saying how much they love animals. That's fantastic. So you can relate to Emily Carr in that way. One day, almost 100 years ago, Emily Carr got a knock at her door. And it was the director of the National Gallery of Canada. And he invited Emily Carr to be part of an exhibition in Ottawa. She took the train all the way across the country where she met the group of 7, a group of experimental painters who worked in a way that was similar to Emily Carr's style. So this travel and this event was a big deal because it was her introduction to other artists. They encouraged Carr to paint what she knows best, the shapes of the landscape of British Columbia. So for 2 years, she made only black and white charcoal drawings so she could really focus on and experiment with using shapes to show what she noticed in nature. We're going to look at one in just a minute. Later on, Carr began to focus more energy on writing and created a series of books. They included Clewick, a book of stories based on her experiences with Indigenous people, and it won the Governor General's Award for Literature in 1941. She died in Victoria at the age of 74 as a respected artist and writer in Canada. And you know what? She donated her paintings to the Vancouver Art Gallery. So, you know what? We are so lucky that now we have over 200 Emily Carr artworks, the biggest collection of Emily Carr works in the world. Her ability to use simple shapes and combinations of colors make people see in her paintings her love and admiration of the forest. I'll tell you in her own words, she said, "What do I want to express? The subject means little. The arrangement, the design, the color, shape, depth, light, space, mood, movement. Not one of these fits the bill, but all. There is something additional, a breath that draws your breath into its breathing, a heartbeat that pounds in yours, a recognition of the oneness of all things." That's what she wrote in her journal in 1936. So Emily Carr, she wanted to show the life, the breath, and the energy and heartbeat of nature in her paintings. Today, we will think about how we can use Carr's ideas to do the same. And some people in the chat are still excited talking about animals. So I think it's really fantastic, again, that you can get that sense of really connecting to animals and nature like Emily Carr has been. Well, speaking of nature, who has been to a forest in British Columbia? Dell saying me, lots of people, okay. Wow, lots of people have been to forests in British Columbia. Okay, now here's the question for you. Think about 2 words to describe what you noticed. You can type them in the chat or you can just say them out loud to the people in the room. Chloe's saying there's a forest near her house. Jennifer said grand. Robin's saying street, trees and cliffs. Tina's saying green and fresh. Oh, Sylvie's saying overwhelming, that feeling near water, epic. Creek smells good. That's fantastic too. Wow. trees, nature, ferns, alive, and oxygen. Well, this is a photo that I took last week in Confederation Park in BC. My words to describe what I noticed were wrapped in vibration because the sunshine was making the colors vibrate so much that it was like colors were wrapping around me and making me vibrate too. But I wondered, how can I share this with others? People are still in the chat entering more and more describing words, calming, exhilarating, fresh. How can we take these words and share them with other people in other ways? Well, let's take a look at an Emily Carr drawing. Remember how I talked about for 2 years she really just focused on shapes. This is a charcoal drawing and it's called Nootka. It was made in 1929 to 31. Now, I'm gonna ask you a question. Does anyone know what it is called when a picture doesn't look realistic? When a picture doesn't look realistic, okay, we see Jean, Zanim, Adele, Ethan, abstract, absolutely right. We call works that are not exactly like they look in real life, abstract. Abstract means that an artist has used their imagination to change the shape, the color or size of how their subjects actually look in real life. So let's look at this drawing again and think about what is Carr trying to show us? What is this a drawing of? What is she trying to show us? A forest. Yeah, Adele saying she's just showing us a forest. Now, does it look exactly like a forest you would see in real life or like in my photo? Where people are already describing some of the shapes that they see. Pointy. Oh, and someone's saying, Sylvie's saying density and notices the tallness of the trees. So we're already talking about all of these different shapes, overlapping shapes, Jennifer is saying too. Fantastic. Now, also take a look. Oh, and Adele is saying she sees a triangle. And some other descriptive words, majestic and powerful, are coming up here too. So where do you see, take a look, you don't even have to answer, Carr repeating these shapes again and again. So these were those years, like I said, where Carr really was focusing on making those shapes more and more abstract to express what she noticed in nature. Oh, and Alyssa also noticed some shading that she's doing. So these aren't flat colors. Erica, maybe you can point to an area where she's showing us shading. So shading is where she's kind of pushing the charcoal even harder to make those dark areas. So it looks a little bit more like it's 3D, or we call that volume in art. 3D, Marcus just said the same thing as well. Mm-hmm. And Brooke was saying that rocks and trees also look really pointy. Jonah said it looks spooky even. So let's look closely at this drawing through a game, a sketching game. Does everybody want to play? Get your pencils and a piece of scrap paper ready. Okay, we are going to draw as many shapes that we see in 30 seconds. Erica is going to time us, and we're going to do this along with you. Don't forget, this is a sketch of the shapes. They don't have to look exactly like they look in this drawing. Okay, what we're going to do, Erica, you're going to start the timer. I'm actually going to use, you can use pencil, you can use marker, pencil, crayons. I'm going to use a marker just so you can see really clearly what I'm drawing, but you might even be just focused on your own drawing. You tell us when we're ready to go, Erica.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Go. Done.
Oh, fantastic. Everybody take a look at Erica's sketch. And let's talk about what we noticed while we were sketching. Okay. Someone's saying, what were we supposed to draw? We're thinking about just the shapes that you see. If you look at mine, these are this looks like a shaped triangle that has a name, but there's also shapes that don't have names. They just look like kind of shapes that I made up myself. So Erica did a great job as well. How would you describe these shapes that you noticed? Any words that you would use to describe these shapes? Pointy, Adele says. Yeah, I found a lot of, you can see where I saw lots of different pointy shapes as well. Adele is saying 2D, which is interesting. If anyone's ever heard that before, two-dimensional. So that means that they're flat. They're not 3D like shading can do for us. Triangle, pointy, oh, organic, somebody said as well. So not exactly like a triangle or a geometric shape. Somebody else is saying geometric shapes, which we also see. A triangle would be called a geometric shape as well. Fantastic. Now, do you want to play one more speed sketch game? Okay, we're going to do that in a minute. But first, let's look at this painting again after we've looked closely at the shapes. This painting is called Old and New Forest. It was also done in 1931. So not too long after Carr really started to use colors again. Okay. Now we're gonna look at this. Of course, we've already thought about the shapes she's using, how she's repeating those, but she's also using layers. She's showing us a background, a middle ground, and a foreground. Has anyone heard of that before? So a background, as you can imagine, no, some people haven't heard of that before. Excellent. A background, as you can imagine, is far, far, far away, way in the back of a picture. So sometimes Carr will show us tiny little trees or even the sky away in the background. And the background is usually the first layer that an artist paints and then creates layers and layers and layers on top of it. You'll see it in a little while when I show you my painting process. Nova's saying that, oh, you see a waterfall in the background. I love that you're using your imagination to add that. I've never seen that before. Mm-hmm. Anyone else, what you see way in the background? Odell's saying that you see it too now, or Landon's saying a river. So because Emily Carr is using abstract shapes and colors, we all use our own imagination and we all see different things. Water, lake, cliffs, fogs, lots of different details. Mountains, someone even said. So now let's talk about the next layer. Oh, so Denise even said snow in the background. We don't want to think about that right now. But what about the next layer, the middle ground? Have you ever heard of that? What is happening in the middle ground of this? Someone's saying they see a dam, tiny trees, a reflection. Look for the biggest tree in this whole painting. One big tree. Adele just said the same thing at the same time as I did.
Here.
Jade said colors are less vibrant. Interesting. We're going to talk about that in a minute too. But I know that this biggest tree is in the middle ground because there are still layers over top of it. So it's the middle layer, not that last layer. The layer with those tiny, tiny trees, we would call the foreground. So for example, like I said, the really bright, tiny triangle trees, I know this is the foreground because Erica can kind of show us where that area is, maybe with the pointer, because there's nothing layered over top of it. So if this was a real forest that we were walking into, those tiny trees in the foreground would be what is closest to us. And those dark triangle trees and the sky and the water like you saw, or the snow, that would be the farthest away. So we call this creating depth using those layers. Do you want to try a layering sketch game? So we're going to do, it's going to be very similar to what we did before, but this time we don't need to worry about using lots of different shapes. What's the main shape that we see here in this painting? I think we've already talked about it actually. A triangle, Adele just said, absolutely. So let's focus on just triangles, and Erica's going to time us for 30 seconds. And Robin is also saying triangle, a few other people as well. Let's time us for 30 seconds, and we're going to see how many layers of triangles we can create. Don't forget, this is a sketch. It doesn't have to look just like this painting. It is just about getting down what you notice really quickly. Does everyone want to give it a try? Let's give it a try. Sure, all right, let's give it a try. Okay. Erica, you are gonna tell us when it is time.
Okay, ready? And go. No, not this one. Just 1 second.
That's okay. It's so great that we're just gonna look right at that first one that we were already looking at. Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
And again, we're just thinking of triangles. You don't even have to copy this painting.
Okay.
We'll do layers and layers, as many as you can create. Are you ready, Erica?
Yes.
All right.
And go.
You can even count to 30 as you're doing this. And more and more and more triangles.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, Erica was thinking about the size of her triangles as well. Oh, and Adele is saying, your page was so full. Did anyone else fill their whole page? Now, someone said they're not very good at drawing. This doesn't even matter. This is about layering different shapes. And that's why sketching is so great. We just get to jot down things really quickly and try and experiment. That's what sketching is for. So let's see, how many layers did you can even count how many you created. I created maybe like, these are in the foreground, those ones that don't have anything on top. A lot. Oh, Olivia said yours looks like dragon scales. Very cool. Some people say theirs look like scribbles. It doesn't matter. I'm looking at the layers. I probably have about 5 or 6 layers. Jennifer is saying so many layers. And Landon got 1,000,000 layers. Wow, you worked very quickly in 30 seconds. Now, one thing we haven't quite talked about yet, we've talked about shapes, we've talked about arranging and layering those shapes. Let's talk about how Carr uses color to create depth. So if we look at that same painting for one last time, can you see where the brightest greens are in this painting? The really bright ones. Someone mentioned it a little bit earlier on. The brightest greens, that's where our eyes go directly to. Ah, yeah, of course, in front. Denise is saying, Dong is saying, right in front, we see the brightest greens. And then think about those deep, dark greens as well. Where do you see the deep, dark greens? Yeah, in the back, absolutely. So she's also using colors to create depth. Now everyone's saying, Robin and Jennifer and Adele and Sue, everyone is saying those dark greens are way, way at the back. So we don't even need to talk about what Emily Carr's favorite color to use was here, because I think we can all guess. We've only looked at one Emily Carr painting, but you can guess what color she's using. It's green, of course. Yes, Sue's saying green, Adele's saying green, but it's not just one kind of green, is it? She is using hundreds of different greens to paint how she saw this forest. I want us to do a little experiment. Let's look at this painting one last time and think about the variety, how many different greens that Carr uses. People are already started different shades of greens. The forest is rampant with greens. That's really cool. And Nova's mentioning mixing and blending. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Adele said she thinks there's 20,000 different greens. Now, what we're going to do now is think of words we can use that these greens remind us of. We're going to create our own names for these greens. So Erica can circle a section and you can add it in the chat what you think this green looks like. Use your imagination. So Erica, you can choose just any section of this painting and I'll tell you my words while everybody else thinks of theirs.
Here?
Ah, okay, that kind of to me looks like maybe like a gummy bear, maybe a gummy bear that fell on the floor because it's a little bit like muddy color. What does everyone else think? Mint green? A flowing green, spruce tips, or blue green, oh, grass and turtles, Lauren is saying, or a spring green, or it looks like mint. What about another one? Let's try another. Everybody has so avocado green, or turquoise, or spearmint. How about this one here? How is this one different? A lime green, or like a yellowy green. Yeah, just like what you're saying.
I would say cauliflower green also.
Erica's saying cauliflower green. Delicious. That kind of almost white green. Ellen saying lime green, tulip stem green, celery green, white green. So many different descriptions or words we can use just to talk about one green. We could go on and do this whole painting with different words to describe the greens, but what I'd really like to do is show you how you can mix your own greens. Do you want to do that? Painter's tape green. Good one. I like that one a lot as well. I use painter's tape. So let's check out, okay, so some people are saying, yeah, they like mixing paint. I'm going to show you what we call a color wheel. I'm going to show you a really quick video about how you can make any colors in the world with 3 primary colors. Has anyone heard of that before? Primary colors? What are the 3 primary colors? Does anybody know? All right, a few people are saying, Ellen is saying, and who else? Suzanne is saying, and Kathy. Oh, so many people are saying. Jeanette is saying red, yellow, and blue. Absolutely. Alyssa, Annette, Deborah, Denise, everyone is saying red, yellow, and blue. We have these primary colors. Now, if we add a little bit of black and white to this, we can create any color that you could ever imagine with just 5 tubes of paint. Let's take a look at how we can do this. So see how adding white completely changes, adding those 2 primaries? Red and blue created, as you can see. Yeah, purple, Landon, yeah. But see how if I add a little bit more red, if I add a little bit more blue, it really changes that purple. So we've talked about primary colors, red, blue, and yellow. The secondary colors, those ones that mix in between, purple, green, and orange, just like we see here. Now you can see where I'm experimenting with those greens, adding a bit more yellow or a bit more blue. And yes, you're absolutely right, Landon, this is a video. I wanted to speed it up because it takes a long time to paint, but I think you can kind of get the idea of how I used different different colors to create different shades and tones. So see how many greens I'm getting by adding a tiny bit of gray. We call that toning. If you add black, we call it shading. If we add white, we call it tinting.
I like the word tinting.
Tinting. Just giving it a little tint. You can see how I just tinted that orange a little bit. Now, in just a second, we're going to pause it. Aha, that's okay. This is an example of how we can, like Emily Carr does, use opposite colors to really make colors stand out. If you look at the colors all around the outside, they kind of, all the different greens, for example, they almost like blend together with our eyes, even though they're different. But look at these 2 opposite colors. Colors that are exactly across from each other on the color wheel are called, well, opposites. Makes sense, right, everybody? So if here we see purple is right across from yellow. And look at it when I put them beside each other. It's almost like they start vibrating or bouncing off of each other. And what do you think if I asked you what the opposite of red would be? What's the opposite color to red, exactly across the color wheel? That's right, Adela, green, exactly across. And December saying green, and Olivia, Marcus. So let's see what happens when we put red and green beside each other. You can keep playing the video. Aha, they really start to bounce off of each other. They don't blend at all. And then we can guess the last 2, orange. Now this isn't a pure orange that I have. I'm using my son's finger paints. So, but this kind of orangish color, and the opposite would be, it's right across, Marcus, that's right, blue. So if we put blue and orange beside each other, again, we get that kind of regal, vibrant color. And then we'll also see as this continues to paint, some people were asking about browns. This is what happens when you mix opposite colors. You get what some artists call kind of like a muddy color. They're still cool colors, but they're not bright and bold. They're really toned. So maybe you want to use colors like that, but if you want to keep really, really bright colors, you want to make sure you're not mixing your opposite colors together. Now, let's look at another Emily Carr painting. And let's think about, okay, we're going to look at those shapes that she's using. We're going to look at those layers that she's using, but we're also going to think about, okay, does anybody see Emily Carr using opposite colors in this painting? Some people are saying they really like this painting. I do as well. Adele's saying, wow, so many mixes of color. So now that we've seen that color wheel, you can see how Emily Carr is really, really blending. So Annette noticed orange and blue. Erica, maybe you can circle where we see orange and blue.
Here? Oh, orange and blue.
Yeah, you can see some orange and blue areas. I know I can. I can see a bit of purple in that circle, and there's orange just in the back. Mm-hmm. And then we have some blue as well. So many to list, too much. That's absolutely, you're absolutely right. Annette is noticing the foreground, so that layer that's closest to us as well. Does anyone see I see yellow almost in the foreground, that really big tree. Mm-hmm. Do you remember what the opposite of yellow is? Adele notices skinny trunks, and Alyssa's saying, too many mixed colors for your eyes. So we have yellow, and yeah, Kian, purple is exactly, that's right, the opposite of yellow. So where do we see that opposite color used? We see it way in the background, or even where Erica's circling, you can see where purple is coming up against the yellow. Fantastic. Jennifer's saying that you like the blue and orange. And Marcus noticed that there's so many opposites here. And that's why this painting looks like it's almost like it's vibrating. Okay, now Emily Carr, of course, she's painting what she saw and noticed in the forest, but when we go into the forest or into nature, we don't just see things, we notice things with all of our senses. Well, hopefully, maybe not taste, I don't know about that one, but we are thinking about the smell or the sounds of the forest as well. And Emily Carr thought about that too. And in her writing, she said, trees love to toss and sway. They make such happy noises. Now, I'm going to ask you, Erica, and everybody else, to make a noise that you might hear if you were in this exact forest. You can type it in the chat, or you can just say it out loud to the people you're with. Erica.
Okay.
Can I hear your sound, Erica? Oh, it kind of reminds me of like little bugs or crickets. Adela saying swoosh, Sarah saying echo. Or, oh, I love crinkle. And chirp. Jonah, chirp is what I was thinking too. Chirp, 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 chirp. And part of what I was thinking, or tweet, 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 an owl. Someone's even kind of making up sounds with words as well. Because of the bright, bold, vibrant colors, it makes us think that this is like a bright, bold, sunny day. It makes me think that anyways. So swoosh, we have so many sounds. And Annette saying a woodpecker in the background too. Or tweet, tweet, or caw, caw. So all of this kind of vibrant way of using color, how she's using shapes to show us the forest. By the way, take a look at these shapes. We looked at triangles before, but she's changing these triangles. She's adding kind of like those curvy lines as well. Maybe Erica can outline where she's kind of changed the triangles she sees. I'm mentioning this because I'm using this as inspiration for my painting that we're going to see in just a few minutes. Now, I want to show you, speaking of shapes, how I looked at a photograph or how I looked at a scene in nature and created abstract shapes. So I took this very realistic looking photo, and then I'll show you, this is a digital sketch actually, how I just looked for the shapes to create the start of my sketch for my painting. Kind of triangle-like, but not exactly. I didn't add all the details. And then here, see, I just added some things from my own imagination, not even from the photo. But even in this sketch, you can see what's in the background, those kind of like swooshing lines. In the middle ground are my trees. I could have added a lot more layers of trees, even if I didn't see them in real life. And then in the foreground, that last layer, I've kind of created like a swooshing layer, like Emily Carr often does. I don't need to add every detail of every tree. Now, do you want to think about how we can use complementary colors to really make this come to life? Remember my words that I said to describe what I noticed in the forest. I said it was like wrapped in vibration because the colors were so bold, they were wrapping around me. So let's take a look now at the final painting so you can see how I use colors. And you can probably see some complementary colors. You can probably see some highlights as well. You can see some blending of colors as well in the background. Now, do you want to see how I created this painting? Like someone asked before, this will be a video because I wanted to speed it up. I really wanted you to see my process or way that I made it and the choices that I made about colors and shapes and middle ground, background, foreground. Now, you're welcome to paint along with me right now, but you don't have to. This is not a session to kind of teach you exactly how to make this painting. Your painting is going to look so different because it's going to be about what you notice in nature, and it's going to be about what you noticed in Emily Carr's work, or maybe the sketches that we did earlier. So all of the paintings are going to look very different. I just wanted to demonstrate something that you could like dive off of. You could start with and then really expand with your own ideas. So let's take a look.
There you go.
And someone asked Madison, you asked if I did that with finger paints. I did. I used washable paint. Now, so you can see I sketched in the shapes inspired by my digital sketch, but I'm changing those shapes. And in the background, I put down white first because I wanted to keep my colors bright. See how I painted all the way over? I know it's going really fast. I painted right over my sketch, but that doesn't matter. I can still see it a little bit, but I can always change my sketch too, right? We're always experimenting when we're painting. I wanted to make sure there were light areas when I layered the trees, but I also wanted to think about how can I include opposite colors. So I have purple in the back. So here you see I'm kind of looking at my sketch again, and I'm outlining it in white. And I'm doing that because the next layer, I want to be bright, bold colors. I don't want them to blend right in with those purples and blues in the background because I want them to be bright and bold at this point. Even adding a little bit of white to the bottom here. And then we're getting into some, see how bright and bold those colors are? They wouldn't be so bright if I put them right over top of purple. Adding a tiny bit of green. And at this point, I'm not really even thinking about my sketch anymore. I'm just moving and blending the colors. And sometimes I blend the colors right on the page. So here I just showed I was using red and blue. These are actually purple trunks. They look a little bit brown in this video. Any guesses why I would want to use purple tree trunks?
Yellow?
Because the opposite of yellow. You can see where I started with the lightest greens first. I added like the yellowy greens, or somebody called like those limey, spritey greens, right over top of the white. And here I'm starting to add darker kind of underneath colors. And here a bit, kind of like a bluey green that I've blended. And the trees always turn out very differently than I imagined at first, but that's how painting works. And Alyssa's saying it looks.
I really like your actually painting on the big piece of paper.
I used a really big piece of paper. Yeah, that's a really good point, Erica, because then I can really move my brush. You can even move your brush along with me as I'm painting. I like how Alyssa mentioned that it looks abstract. Does this look like anything exactly like real life or what you'd see in nature? It's changed so much from that original picture. Yeah, everyone's saying, no, this does not look like real life. But I'm starting to capture this way of showing wrapped in vibration. The brush strokes are almost like they're wrapping around. And the colors, see how I popped in some red at the bottom? It kind of went pop. It really helps those greens stand out. And someone's saying they look like mushroom trees. I think so too. So really experimenting with those shapes. They're not even close to triangles anymore. Look like ice cream from Costco, someone else said as well. So that gives you, I know that was very, very quick, but that gives you a sense of how you could take what you actually see in nature, or even like a photo like I did, because I wanted to show you. Can we see the photo again? Yeah, sure, Shayla, you can see the photo again. That's a good idea. You can compare. Look at how much I've used abstract shapes, abstract colors to totally change what I saw. But I still was thinking about, okay, what do I want to show people? I want to show a forest, but I want to show what I noticed in the forest, not just the trees. So if you want to create a painting, you can do that now. Or you know what? This video will be on our website. You can always go to the website and stop and start it at different points. But like I said, this is not about recreating my painting. This is about giving you ideas to use your own inspiration from Emily Carr, imagination, and what you noticed in real life to create your own painting. So you can think about, what will your subject be? Doesn't have to be a forest. You can think about, what shapes will you use to show your subject? And then you can think about, how can you create depth? Those layers of background, middle ground, and foreground. And maybe you want to use those opposite colors to really make your colors in your painting explode and burst off the canvas. So I hope your session today, it made you think about how you can share what you notice in nature and the world through art. You can turn on your imagination next time that you go into forest or even the park or even go for a walk, and think about what makes you say, whoa, or vibrate with excitement. You can think about the subject, what you're going to paint, those shapes you're going to use, how you're going to layer and arrange the shapes, and then of course those complementary colors. And you know what? Don't forget to take a picture of your painting, and you can tag us on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and then we can share your work to inspire the whole community. I would love to see what you come up with. Erica and I are so honored that you can join us today. Thank you so much for being patient with us as we learn. Thank you so much for your excellent collaboration, working with us and giving all of these wonderful kind of answers to questions and your own ideas. So Erica and I are going to say goodbye now, because we want you to dive into your own paintings. But on Sundays, the Vancouver Art Gallery will share an art making activity inspired by exhibitions or artworks from the gallery's collection. You can visit our website and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to learn more and more and take part. And we also will be back with Art at Home live sessions every other Wednesday. So you can join us on May 27th at 1:30 p.m. To learn more about the incredible lives and works of artists. So you can check out more our website for more information and to register. So unless anyone has any other questions that I could answer right now, we just want to thank you again for being here. And if you're excited to get more involved with the gallery, you can think about getting a gallery membership. Membership support makes programs like Art at Home Live possible. So again, check out the website for more information. It was great to learn, imagine, and create with you today. Keep using art to stay connected to the world around you and to others. And also a big thank you to Erica for being here with us and creating along with us today.
Bye, everyone.